Welcome back to the 7:40 p.m. turn of Assault on Emmitsburg Road from Longstreet Attacks, Revolution Games, Armor Allotment Design. So we're up to the 7:40 turn, and you saw with the last one, we're pushing against the Trostle and Kringle farms over here, both here and here. Kringle farm was taken by Wilcox and Wolford supporting, and they were able to break through over there. Trostle is still untaken by the Confederates, as well as the Union has moved more units up, particularly Harrow's brigade of the 2nd Corps that contains the 1st Minnesota, to try to block Barksdale and Wolford's attack on Trostle Farm. So at the 7:40 turn, we're still going to be concentrating on the Trostle Farm with Barksdale and Wolford. Again, they're severely depleted here, but they got to continue the attack to try to push them back and grab the farm, because there's 3 points there that they need to capture. The same holds true for over here, this ridge location on Cemetery Ridge. That needs to be recovered. Excuse me, not recovered, but captured by the Confederates, and they've got a big chunk of Union right in front of them, particularly around Rogers Farm down here, and the rest of the Emmitsburg Road up to Cadore Farm, which was captured by Wright's brigade in the previous hours. So we're going to concentrate on two areas again: Trostle Farm, and this time it's going to be Rogers Farm, to see if they can try to break through. So let's get started, first off, by seeing what happens at Trostle Farm. Artillery played a key role with Trostle Farm on this particular turn. So we're going to start out with that to see just what action occurred over here and how it played out, and set the stage for the rest of the attack on the Trostle Farm. So first off, we started, as always, with the Union artillery opening fire. Weir's battery up here was taking the opening shots, and they were going after the Confederate artillery up in the orchard. They missed, but then we have Parker and Tyler's batteries down here opening up on Harrow's brigade that has taken up the forward position, particularly the 19th Maine right there. They're going to be firing. They roll 42, which gets a routine result and winds up with a retreat 2, which pushes back the 19th Maine back over into the southern half of the Trostle thicket. Next, we have some more artillery here by the Union. This time it's going to be the Buckland's battery, reduced battery over here, taking a shot at the 18th Mississippi. Try to drive them back, and they roll a routine hit, and they roll also a retreat 2. So they need to fall back underneath the guns there on the peach orchard. Next, we move over to Manley and Carleton's guns, the Georgians and the North Carolinians over here, taking a shot at the 82nd New York, right there in part of Trossle's orchards. And they take a shot. Results in a 62, which is a routine hit, and a 24, which is a retreat 1, which pushes them back into the farm itself. So slowly but surely, you can see the Union is taking heavy damage from the guns and isolating the 1st Minnesota up here, which is part of the plan, so that Barksdale potentially can get up to the 21st Mississippi to attack and try to push them back. Next, we got Turnbull's battery over here, falls back. And then we have Moody and Gilbert Confederate battery up here. They're going to take a shot over at Carr's shaken unit over in the woods. Or excuse me, not woods, the orchard. Roll a routine 53, which is a D, and a retreat 1. So they are going to be pushed back. So they've cleared those western orchards of Trostle Farm. It was Thomas's battery taking a shot at the ones that just fired, Taylor and Parker, that they missed. So next we have some of the Confederate batteries moving up here. And then we have Union batteries over on Cemetery Hill doing some shooting. They missed. And a few more up on the northern half of the fight, moving up. But these were a lot of misses over here, and a little bit more movement over here. And there we have it. So you can see that the Union has basically pushed back, or the Confederates have basically pushed back all of the Union regiments that were around there, save the 1st Minnesota right here. This is basically isolated them for potential attack by Barksdale's unit, fresh unit right here, as well as supporting attacks over here that potentially could get into Trostle Farm. But the Union still has a good bit of units behind there, particularly Weir's Battery and the 71st New York, holding the line back there. So we'll see how the chip pull action goes and how the Trostle Farm goes. So the Union gets a jump on the Confederates at Trostle Farm by getting Hayes to activate Willard as reinforcements coming down from the Taneytown Road, and they move up into Trostle Orchard to take the place of those retreating units that were displaced by the artillery attack. Willard's units are a decent strength and a fair cohesion. Two of the reserve units are lesser cohesion, but still very strong, that can come in and support the defense and any counterattacks over in there. So Willard gets in, and he becomes active over there. And next, it's a USA Command chit that's drawn, which happens to be good ground, and that's placed right on Trostle Farm. So that's going to be a big impediment for any type of attack by Barksdale or Wolford down towards the farm itself. Next one, we get a rally. That is going to affect one of the batteries there in the center of the field, Sheldon's battery. Fortunes of War eliminates one Union chit. And then Hancock comes out. He activates. And he's going to activate Willard to go on the attack. So Willard's in a good position to try to disrupt or break up any type of attack by Wolford's brigades down here to the west of the Union lines. So they have a good chance to break this up. So they're going into attack. First, they're going to take some shots. First shot misses. Second shot gets a routine hit, which drives off one of the units. The 16th Georgia has to retreat. So they're pushed back, and now here comes the 125th and the 111th New York to attack Wolford's brigade and try to drive them back. The other two regiments move up behind to position to support if needed. And now we go into our close combat. So the 125th is going first, but Wolford's 18th Georgia is going to open fire on them as they're advancing. Rolls a 42, which is a miss. Here comes the attack. Rolls a 22, which is a routine hit, and rolls a 31, which gets a morale hit on the attackers. The 128th New York is actually pushed back by the 18th, and they take a morale hit and ends that combat there. Next, the 111th is going to try, but first, the firing by the sharpshooters and other units. They roll a 45, which is a miss, and then here comes the attack, which is another routine attack. Rolls a 1-2. This time it's an AD and a retreat all 1. So the 111th is going to be depleted but the sharpshooters and the 24th Georgia need to retreat from there. So the Union counterattack has mixed results, as they're able to push back a couple of Wolford's units and kind of break them up, but they did take some pretty decent punishment when they did that. A depletion and a morale hit is going to reduce their effectiveness going forward here. But we'll see how this goes for the next phase of the Trostle attacks. And the first thing the Confederates do is get a rally chit, which this is going to be placed on Barksdale's 18th Mississippi right here, and that potentially can help them get back some units, and desperately needed full-strength units to attack. They need a 5 or less. They roll a 2. That gets the 18th back in good order. So now we've got the 18th and the 21st in there to be able to attack. You notice up here the 17th is reduced. They can't recover. And there's a 3rd unit that's on the broken track that will have to get off later on. But hopefully we can attack with these 3 units and make some progress. While Barksdale is recovering his units, Wolford is planning his attack to counter Willard's quick assault on him. So he activates, and Wolford is going to get moving to attack. First off, we'll take some shots at the 111th from the sharpshooters, and they roll a 32, which is going to be a miss. And now the 18th Georgia is going to fire at the shaken units there, and they also get a miss. So now they're going to move up and get all the regiments, Phillips Legion up there, into the attack and try to push back the 111th, which is reduced. So first off, they're taking a shot at them. Willard takes a shot. They roll a routine, but they miss. Now the attack is going to be on the 12-13 strength column. They roll a 16, which is a close fight, which rolls a 33, which is a morale hit for the 16th Georgia. So that attack failed. And then the next shit out is Barksdale. After seeing Wolford's attack, he goes into the attack and looks to drive against Trostle Farm itself. First off, the 17th Mississippi is going to try to fire on the 141st Pennsylvania in Weikert's Woods over there. And they roll a routine, and they roll a retreat 2 on the 141st Pennsylvania. They fall back, and now they will move up to potentially attack the farm itself, or at least try to push back some of the supporting units that are around it. In this particular case, we're going to have the 21st Mississippi go against the 1st Minnesota, which is going to be the big attack, because both of those units are very heavy in terms of what they can do. And then we're going to have the 18th Mississippi and the 17th Mississippi go up against Harrow, the 15th Massachusetts, and the disrupted Burling unit that are holding the farm lane just to the south, and not going after the good ground because it's just too intimidating for them at this point. But they need to isolate as much as possible to try to eventually push on to that hex, possibly in the next turn. So let's see how these attacks go. First off, we're going with the 21st Mississippi. So the 1st Minnesota is going to get a shot at them, and they roll a 52, which actually scores a miss. And then we're going to have the attack, which is going to be on the 10 and 11. And they roll a 44, which is going to be a routine hit on the 1st Minnesota. And they roll a BD, MH, R2. So they're both going to be flipped. And then they take a morale hit, and then they have to retreat too. So the 1st Mississippi has won the fight and pushed them back, but they've taken some serious damage as they've been reduced as well. Not what they wanted to have, because they do need to retain as much strength as possible to get into Trostle Farm. From the Union perspective, it was actually not bad result. They took some heavy damage, but they inflicted heavy damage on the Mississippi as well to make it harder for them to get into Trostle Farm. Next, we're going to come over to the 18th Mississippi's attack, and they're going to get the defensive fire first from the 15th Massachusetts and Burling's brigade. Routine hit. Rolls a D, which actually flips the 18th Mississippi again, so they're reduced again. So now in their attack, they roll a 51, which is a routine hit, and then a 44. Now this is a little bit more severe on them. They get a BD, morale hit, retreat 2, panic 2. The panic is what's worse. But first off, let's go through this. First off, Harrow's battle worn. The 15th Massachusetts is battle worn. And then the 17th Mississippi down below is got to take a break test. 3 or less. They just roll a 3, so they're still in play. Morale hit goes on. He takes a morale hit, I should say. And now we continue on with the rest of it. Now the morale hit goes on the 15th Massachusetts. And then they have to retreat 2, as well as the Burling's brigade, or Burling's regiment, I should say. Move back. And now we've got panic. And they're going to panic Brewster's brigade that was behind them, and Seeley's artillery that was back there as well. So they've cleared that farm lane down to Plum Run and Trostle Thicket, and have isolated the Trostle Farm a little bit more, but they've taken some heavy damage. We've got both the 18th Mississippi depleted. We've got the 17th Mississippi shaken, but they're still holding the ground, which is the key thing. Now, from the standpoint of the Union, the 82nd New York is still standing fast on Trostle Farm, and we still have Weir's 5th U.S. Battery, as well as the 71st New York behind them. We also still have 39th New York in good order, and 126th New York in good order behind them as well. So the Union is still holding, but they have been taking some damage here on the Trostle Farm. So let's we'll move along from there and see what the Union reacts with. So the Union reacts to this assault on Trostle Farm by having Harrow's brigade activate, or limited activation, to fire defensively against the attacking units. So first off, we're going to have the 82nd New York firing against these advancing Mississippians in the orchard, and they roll a 44, which is a routine hit, and they roll a retreat 2. So the 17th Mississippi, that's already shaken, retreats back towards the peach orchard to end the fighting for the 740 turn around Trostle Farms. So over at the Rogers Farm, the Union also gets the jump on the Confederates by Humphreys activating Carr to defend and try to push back some of Wilcox's advancing brigades. So first off here, we get the 22nd Pennsylvania, who is going to try to shoot at the 9th Alabama to drive them back. They roll on the 7 column, they get a routine, roll an R1, which pushes them back a little bit, forces them back to retreat a little bit. And then meanwhile, Carr is going to reorganize here a little bit to move up some of his reserve troops in a defensive position to plug the hole to the left of center, up towards the Cemetery Ridge, so that Wright and Posey don't strike up in that direction. But that weakens the center a little bit, which may allow Wilcox to get into position for a good attack to take Rogers Farm and potentially push back Webb's units and the Carr and Ward's units here, just to the east of that as well. But we'll see as that goes along. Longstreet still stays in direct command of Anderson's units and instructs Anderson to get Wilcox going for this next segment. And he's going to get him to attack and drive against Trostle Farm because he has 3 good full-strength regiments ready to attack, as well as a 4th reduced strength that can get over there and hopefully drive out the 26th Pennsylvania. So first off, some shooting at the 69th Pennsylvania. They miss, and up comes the 9th Alabama, the 10th Alabama, the 14th Alabama to attack into the 26th Pennsylvania that's holding Rogers Farm. 26 takes some shots back, particularly at the 14th and the 10th. And they miss. And then we go to the attack on the 14th, 16th strength points. Roll a 1-2, which is a routine hit on them, and a 61, which is a D2 and a attacker morale hit. So again, Confederates taking damage in these larger assaults, despite having the numbers and pushing. The Union is having an effect on them. So the 26th is battle worn, and meanwhile, the Alabamans take a hit. But we notice quickly that the Confederates have a Army of Northern Virginia veterans, which is going to get played here shortly. There we go. Which allows them to re-roll that skedaddle result. And they roll a 3. This time, it's going to be a retreat all 2 for Carr. And we take off that morale hit. So they stiffen up and push onward towards the Rogers Farm and actually push out the 26th Pennsylvania. And now that allows them to move up into Rogers Farm and then play another chit, a confident chit, so they can attack one more time with that. So they are going to attack into the hex there with Sheldon's battery, 1st New York B. But first, Ward's skirmishers fall back, and that just leaves the 16th Massachusetts and the battery defending that position. So they're going to attack. First off, Sheldon battery is going to fire at them. On the 11th strength points, rolls a 45, which is a routine. Rolls a 65, which is a DR2, which means the 10th is going to take a hit and fall back 2 hexes behind the orchard, Rogers Orchard, the other side of Emmitsburg Road. So that just leaves the 3 strength point, 14th Alabama, to attack the guns and Carr. So they roll a 1-2, which is a close fight, and a 36, which is a morale hit, and a retreat 2. So 14th Alabama, despite their low strength, get a morale hit on the artillery and force both units to retreat backwards. So Sheldon's artillery needs to go back all the way to there after stacking, and the 16th Massachusetts is going to go back over there. And they have forced them out of Rogers Farm and solidified the victory hex there at Rogers Orchard. So next up is Anderson again. He's going to continue to follow up with Wilcox in the attack. And they're going to do some shooting at the 69th Pennsylvania again, try to disrupt them, push them out of there. That fails. Next, we're going to get some shooting by the 14th Alabama at the 106th Pennsylvania. They get a routine hit, and they get a depletion, morale hit, retreat 2. So that was the best they could get out of that, and that's going to actually push them back, as well as put them out of action for a while. So that has really cleared the Rogers Farm, and having the 14th Alabama holding off everything. The one set of units that could potentially do some damage against them and counterattack has been pushed back. We do still have Webb and Hall's units that are barely holding on to Emmitsburg Road. But the threat of counterattack from them is going to be less because they're lower cohesion, even though they do have a good strength point. They could take some damage if they try to come up and attack. And plus, they have right over here that potentially can push them out as well or attack them from the flank. So that basically, we do have some a little bit more shooting here. It's a routine hit, and they do a retreat 1. So you can see Webb is now pushed off. Hall has now become isolated. We get a little bit of movement to reinforce the 14th Alabama with the remnants of the 10th Alabama, and they solidify their positions around the Rogers farm. And that pretty much does it for the Rogers farm. And they've captured it for this 740 turn. So let's take a look and see at the end of 740 what everything looks like. Coming to the end of the 740 turn, and here's what the situation looks like. We've been concentrating on both the Trostle farm here and the Rogers farm here for this particular turn, and showed you the main fighting action going around there. But overall, this is the situation going into the 8 p.m. turn, which is the fact that Barksdale and Wolford still are holding on the fringes of the Trostle farm. The Union is throwing more and more brigades into the Trostle farm area. This turn we had Willard. Before that we had Harrow. And you notice we've got a number of smashed regiments recuperating here just outside of the Weikert farm area over here. Wolford and Barksdale themselves have been damaged quite severely. They have recovered quite well, but they do have limited punching power left. We'll see how next turn goes. Confederate artillery has been the key over here, and we still have them in a very good position to continue to fire into the Trostle farm and around it to push back units. So that's going to be key for the next turn. Kringle Farm held very solidly here. Confederates are trying to push back the Union from a longer range here because trying to push up against them is not going to get them much, because then they would have to cross the Trostle thicket, which is very limiting in terms of its movement. The Rogers farm, however, is a key location because there is a victory point location right there, which is now Confederate. And that allows the Confederates to potentially push around the thicket in this general direction to get to this other spot that Trimble is on for the victory location. Wright had pushed a little bit against this. There was not much action here. It was very limited. Posey did not activate this turn, so he was stuck here on the Emmitsburg Road, holding both Cadore and the northern half of the Emmitsburg Road. The same with Lang down here. The Floridians, they did not activate as well. They provided some long-range fire against Hall. You notice one unit, the 20th Massachusetts, was pushed back, and we just have the 7th Michigan now holding the road, which probably will be taken or pushed back in the next turn. From the Union perspective, again, it's just holding the line as best as possible. They have reconstituted their center over here. Smith and now some of Webb's brigades that have been beat up a bit have moved back into position here, blocking any type of advance across here. But they also have artillery up here on Cemetery Hill that can provide some crossfire if Posey decides to go for this way, or against Wright, who is also moving in that direction against the Cemetery Ridge victory point location. Quite a few units in front of them from both Carr and Webb and Hall, so that's going to be a tough battle over there, as well as with the Trostle farm. So that's where we are at the end of 740. Hopefully you've enjoyed this particular video and the whole series of this. We've just got a couple more turns to go with this, the 8 and the 8:20 p.m. turn. So we will see how it goes. It's still up in the air for both sides to control essentially these two hexes, one or both of these two hexes, for a Union or a Confederate victory. So stay tuned to the next one, and thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and comment, and we'll see you on the next one.